Hello, good morning, everyone. Good morning. Welcome to this morning's information session on call for Interreg Northwest Europe funding. So in the next hour, as you can see on the agenda there, you're going to hear about the background of Interreg funding in Ireland, the basics of the currently open call for proposals, as well as how to get advice and find partners for your project idea. So maybe before we start, as people are still joining, I'll do a bit of housekeeping. So just to explain, look, all cameras and microphones are on mute because there's a lot of people here, over 100 registered. So we do encourage questions all the same. So please, you'll see in the Microsoft Teams, there's a Q&A button where you can add your questions during the presentations. So, live, you can do that while we're talking. And we'll have time to answer those questions after the speaker presentations at around 11:15. So just also please note that this session is being recorded. And of course, the recording as well as the slides will be made available to you through the Southern Regional Assembly website in the coming days, maybe a week. So to start the day, we're joined by the Director of the Southern Regional Assembly, that's David Kelly. The Southern Regional Assembly has been the managing authority for EU-funded regional programmes and for Interreg funding for over 20 years. David is particularly familiar with Interreg Northwest Europe as he's a member of the Monitoring Committee. So welcome, David, and thank you for taking the first session of today's webinar. Thank you.
Good morning, Sarah. Thanks very much. Good morning, everybody. Look, you're all very welcome to this information session. On the fourth call, as Sarah said, look, it's a good opportunity to get a good overview of the programme from Alexandra, but also, I suppose, what the specifics of this particular call are, and also a good chance to, for Sarah maybe to explain to you what really makes a good project. Look, as Sarah said, my name is David Kelly. I'm the Director of the Southern Regional Assembly, and I've also been involved in the Northwest Europe programme now since, about 2008. As I sit on the Monitoring Committee and one of the Irish representatives on that. Maybe for those who may not be quite as familiar with the role of the regional assemblies, I might just say a few words about that in the first instance. We're one of 3 regional assemblies. We were established in 2014, 2015, following the local government reform. We have, an overarching role in terms of regional development in Ireland. We have probably 3 main tools to kind of deliver on that. One is the development and implementation of a regional, spatial and economic strategy as part of the National Development Plan or the National Planning Framework. As Sarah said, we're managing authority for an ERDF regional funded programme, and again have been that since about the year 2000. So we're on our 4th iteration of regional development programmes, and we also have a key role in terms of Interreg or European Territorial Cooperation through hosting national contact points, but also through attracting funding directly ourselves to implement some key objectives within the region. In terms of the Southern Regional Assembly, we represent about 1/3 of the country. So we have 10 local authorities. So it's Munster and the 3 counties in South Leinster, Carlow, Kilkenny and Wexford. Our democratic representation is made up of locally elected members who are elected to local authorities and then are nominated to the regional assemblies. So obviously, following the local elections now coming up at the end of May, beginning of June, we'll have a new assembly, like local authorities have new councils. In terms of the regional space and economic strategy, maybe just say a few words on that. I suppose the key function of that is to, support the implementation of the National Planning Framework at regional level and to translate the key objectives of that and of government economic policies to the regional level. So it's a 12-year strategy. It's a statutory strategy. So what that means is that it sets out the key framework for the development of the region over the next 10 years, 10 to 12 years, and then each of the local authorities within the region then have to align their city and county development plans to that. So effectively, it is anticipated that we'll have approximately an extra 1 million people living in Ireland up to 2040. Look, I suppose the stats indicate that that'll probably be exceeded. Of that, about maybe 380 to 400,000 will be living in our region. So the strategy is to set out how we accommodate those additional people, where people live, where people work, and I suppose to redress the balance of development across the country, to take the pressure away from the eastern region, and to redress that balance to the southern and the northern and western regions. The strategy itself, I suppose, is set across, I suppose, three probably overarching goals, three overarching principles, to become, I suppose, one of the greenest regions in Europe, to be one of the most creative and innovative regions in Europe, and one of the most livable regions in Europe. So there are 11, I suppose, strategy statements to try and deliver on that. And they very much align with, I suppose, the overarching high-level principles or policies within EU policy. So we're talking about a smart and innovative region, which aligns with EU policy, low carbon transition, so that move away from the use of fossil fuels and more effective and efficient use of our energies to a more greener, low carbon economy and society, and then an inclusive society. So I suppose the key is here about setting the high level policies that align across the piece from EU to national down to local level, and then the ambition and the objective is that funding should then automatically follow that policy. I suppose I mentioned that we've been a managing authority for EU funded programs, and this is a really good example of where, you know, that funding aligns and follows policy. I suppose cohesion policy has been a key influence on regional development in Ireland over the years, but also has played a pivotal role in driving that as well. And I suppose in the context of the current programme, we've utilised the opportunity in developing that current programme to really support the implementation and delivery of the regional space and economic strategies. So the new programme is very much aligned with trying to drive that in terms of the support for innovation and research, the support for the transition to the low carbon economy, and the inclusive growth in terms of our urban development priority within the programme. And Interreg also has played a huge role in that over the years. And Interreg, or European Territorial Cooperation, has grown in significance within cohesion policy since its foundation or its initiation back in the early 90s. So now it's a key policy objective within cohesion policy in itself. It has its own key objective. There's almost 10 billion of funds available across Europe for the delivery of the Interreg objective. There are 3 strands, and Ireland is eligible for support under each of the 3 strands. So you have cross-border, so in the Irish case, currently it's the peace programme in Northern Ireland and the border counties. You have transnational, so you have Atlantic area, Northern Periphery and Arctic, and of course this programme that we're talking about today, which is the Northwest Europe programme, which is the biggest of all the transnational programmes. And then you have the interregional programmes, so the likes of Interreg Europe and URBACT and so on. So Ireland has an opportunity to participate in all of those programmes. And look, the key aspect of that is, I suppose, the development and the building of partnerships, the development of collaboration to address shared challenges, shared issues across those borders. And as I said, it has made a considerable contribution to regional development and development in Ireland generally. Just throwing up this slide very quickly, it's just a piece of work that we did back in 2018, and look, we probably need to update it as the programmes have evolved, but it just highlights, I suppose, the key impact that European Territorial Cooperation has played in Ireland over those years. And look, you can see that almost every county in Ireland has been involved, has had a partnership with other regions across Europe, but also has attracted significant amount of funding. So I think that's crucial, I suppose, in terms of demonstrating the success of Irish partners in Interreg and ETC more generally. And look, I suppose specifically just looking at Northwest Europe, this is just a quick snapshot of, I suppose, the calls to date in the current round. And again, look, you can see that Irish partners have actually done very, very well. And look, we don't want to get too bogged down in the numbers, but it is quite evident that Irish partners are doing very well. And look, Irish partners are I suppose considerably sought after as well because of our experience and our ability to deliver. I suppose I wouldn't pick it as a really measurement of impact, but it is a key trend in that Ireland generally gets a lot more out of these programs than we put in. So I think what that demonstrates is the really good opportunity for Irish partners to really, I suppose, benefit from being involved in the activity from this. And look, I suppose my call out is to really engage in the program, really take the opportunity to engage with Sarah after this meeting to really, I suppose, get her experience and the experience from Alexandra on what makes a good project and what key success factors are to really improve your opportunity. So look, that's really, I want to leave it at that and just really, again, call out for you to really take the opportunity to engage in the program. So over to you, Sarah.
Thank you, David.
Will I stop sharing?
Yes, please. Yeah.
Okay.
And so look, Alexandra will present next. David, thank you for the overview. Look, it is really useful to understand how Interreg fits into Irish regional strategies and then that bigger EU level cohesion policy. And it really, I hope it gives us all on the call a feel for the benefits to Irish citizens, on the ground and generally. So we'll move to our next speaker on the agenda, Alexander Colombani. He's coming from the Joint Secretariat Office for Interreg Northwest Europe in Lille, in France. Alexander is the coordinator of the Project Development Unit, and he works closely with the network of national contact points. So that includes myself and my colleagues in the different countries. Alexander has many years of experience in the design and the selection and the monitoring of Interreg projects. So thank you, Alexander, for joining us today. I ask you to share your screen, and just while you're doing that, I remind everyone that you can ask questions in the Q&A. We'll have time later to answer them, and also that you will receive the slides, and the recording of this will be available to participants. Okay, so Alexander, please go ahead and share your screen. Thank you.
There it is. I think, is my screen shared?
Yes, thank you.
Yes. Okay, good. Well, thank you for this presentation, Sarah. And it's nice to see such an impressive attendance. I see there's more than 130 people. So yeah, really nice. So I'm going to present the essentials, what the program expects. So really the basic. I think this is going to be very useful for newcomers. If there's newcomers among these 130 people, certainly is probably. And then I'll go into detail also a bit on some of the technicalities of our program, outputs, results, and our intervention logic. It was to start. I would like to come back on a few things and remind just the broad framework of what Interreg Northwest Europe is about, because we will be talking obviously about themes, about project procedures, processes, calls, which is very important, but we also need to keep in mind that Interreg Northwest Europe is above all a European cohesion policy instrument, a framework that enables to build and strengthen cooperation between regions and reduce territorial disparities. And I really insist on this aspect of reducing territorial disparities because it's something that is not one of our specific objectives as such, but it comes across all priorities, all specific objectives, and something that applicants need to demonstrate in their application forms, whatever specific topic they're going to work on. So why do we need to reduce territorial disparity, specifically Northwest Europe? Why Northwest Europe in particular? Because it's a territory that has been at the vanguard of industrials and economic development in Europe for decades, if not centuries. And this came at a cost on environment, on resources, and substantial discrepancies have emerged over the decades in the different regions in Northwest Europe. But also within these regions, between the urban areas and the rural areas, also within urban areas themselves, between city centers and peripheral areas, for example. So all of these are the disparities that this program is seeking to reduce. And that's why the overall goal, which you can see in italic here on the slide, is to reduce the existing disparities by supporting a green, smart, and just transition in all the Northwest European territories. So concretely, what does our program look like? You have the map right in front of you, 7 countries, Ireland, Belgium, Netherlands, Luxembourg, part of Germany, the northern part of France, and Switzerland as a third country, which cannot get ERDF funding. But they can fully be involved in consortiums. So obviously, for the experienced applicants or experienced beneficiaries that know us, the main change since the previous program is that the UK is not with us anymore. UK has informed us that it would not take part in Interreg programs, so UK partners, UK organizations cannot be project partners in consortiums. They can only be associated organizations, but we'll come back on this a bit later. And then new regions have also joined the area, the north of Netherlands, the northeastern part of Germany, which reinforces a bit the northern and continental aspect of our program. Budget is approximately 310 million euros. And co-financing up to 60%. That hasn't changed since the last programming period. And I would add on the budget aspect that up to now, we have had 3 calls, and we've allocated 137 million euros after 3 calls, which means that we still have a substantial amount of funding for the upcoming call 4, at least, and probably some calls afterwards. Just a last point, simplified costs and reporting. I just want to point out here that simplification has been a main objective for the Commission in this new programming period, and it's something that, there again, experienced applicants we hope will appreciate in that there has been a simplification effort in all aspects of our program, whether it's the application process, the reporting stage, in the monitoring. So yeah, that is a new feature of the 2021-2027 program. The program priorities. So I'll present them very briefly because you can find them on our website. You can find them in all the documents. They're explained in detail what we expect. All in all, we have 5 priorities, which were defined by our member states, considering the specificities of our area. Obviously, the program has decided to dedicate 3 out of these 5 priorities to the green agenda. The 2 others are focusing on innovation and inclusion. Each of these priorities include what we call specific objectives. You can see this on the slide, the SO 2.7, SO 2.4. And in your application, projects will need to contribute to one of these specific objectives. You're going to have to select one of these specific objectives at the start of your application. So it's really important there to choose the right one and to read our Interreg program document, to read the fact sheets which summarize what we expect on each one of these topics, to be sure that you are fitting the objectives of the program on a thematic level. So very, very briefly, we have 3 priorities. The first one, climate and environment, which will fund projects enhancing nature protection, biodiversity, pollution reduction. So for example, we've already approved some projects, a project called Resi River, which is proposing nature-based solutions to improve the resilience of river systems. We are also funding a project called IB Green in this priority, which is aiming to green the greening of industrial and business parks. So yeah, that's what you can find, for example, in this priority, but do have a look at our website. You can also find more details on these projects. It'll give you a more precise idea of what type of projects we approve in these specific objectives, in these priorities, and also it'll give you maybe some inspiration on how to structure and organize your project. Priority 2, energy transition and renewable energies. So here we're tackling projects, or we are expecting projects which will contribute to improving the energy performance in many sectors, whether it's the building sector, transport, district heating. And it's also about adapting or implementing technologies renewable energy technologies such as wind and solar power, the use of biomass, hydropower, or hydrogen technologies. And we have there again some projects, for example, Green Sky High, which is aiming to train professionals and improve their skills for professionals that want to work in the hydrogen sector. We have another project called Greenhouse, which has for objective to increase the use of renewable energies to heat greenhouses, for example. So yeah, that's for priority 2. Then priority 3, circular economy. So here the objective is quite straightforward: promote the transition to a circular and resource efficient economy. And in this priority, we address a wide range of sectors. It can be water management, textile, circular economy for in the electronic devices, food, logistics, agriculture, packaging. There's really a wide range of applications here. And then priority 4 and 5. So more on innovation and inclusion. The priority 4 has it's particular, especially I say this for the experienced applicants, it is different from the innovation priority that we used to have in our program. It's where innovation here is really used as a tool to improve the territorial resilience of the territories in Northwest Europe. So we're less looking at technological development, innovation and technological development as such. We're more looking at innovations which will have a direct impact on improving the territorial resilience of regions in Northwest Europe. And then priority 5, inclusive society. We have here 3 specific objectives, which are quite different from one another. One of them is tackling access to employment, the second one, access to healthcare, and the last one, 2 domains which were very hardly hit by the COVID crisis: culture and sustainable tourism. Where here on this last one, the objective is to use culture and tourism as a way to improve economic development, social inclusion, and innovation in a sustainable way, there again in the Northwest Europe territories.
Excuse me, Alexander,
Yep.
just a quick request, please, if it's possible to just change the mode of your display, because we can see the frame and the
You can
next
see
slide. So it
Ah,
needs to be
okay,
full
I'm
screen
sorry.
mode, if you don't mind. Thanks. If you
Okay,
can do it. I think it's display settings there at the top.
Yep.
Thanks, Emil. Thanks.
There you go. Is that better?
Perfect. Yep. Thanks.
Yeah. Sorry about that. So there, that's for the priorities. Have a look at our fact sheets, have a look at our Interreg program, and also have a look at our website where you can see the first batch of approved projects, which will give you an idea of what we fund under each one of these priorities. So then moving on to project partnership. What do we expect for partnership? Well, the first element, and something that you should start with if you are envisaging to submit an application by the 21st of March, is to look at our step 1 eligibility criteria. These eligibility criteria, especially in step 1, they're quite straightforward. They mostly tackle partnership aspects. So in the following slides, I'll explain precisely what is expected there. But have a look at these step 1 eligibility criteria. You can find them on our website. There's 10 to 12 of them in step 1. I'm not sure about the number, but have a look. It's focusing mainly on partnership, and then on just following the application process, being sure to submit on time. But that's the first step in preparing your application. Who can apply? There's one particularity in our program is that our program is very open to a wide range of different organizations: public, private, academia, civil society. And what we are specifically looking for is to have all of these actors cooperate within one project. This cooperation is important. It's not a tick box exercise, the quadruple helix. It's really because we believe that bringing these different actors together, these different stakeholders together, will enhance the impact of your project and its capacity to reach out and to have a concrete and tangible results towards beneficiaries, end users, and citizens in the end, because that is what we want for every project, is a tangible and concrete impact on the ground. So although it is not an absolute obligation to have all of these actors involved in a project, we still are very much looking forward to having a diversity of stakeholders involved in your project to be able to enhance your impact. Partnership requirements. So these are the eligibility criteria that I was mentioning. What we are looking for is to have 3 partners from 3 different countries. So that is the basis. It's extremely important that you start from there. At least 2 of them need to be from the Northwest Europe area, which, and I'll mention this a bit later, which means that you can also have some partners which are not from the Northwest Europe area. But that is the first part. So 3 partners from 3 countries. And with a few extra conditions, that lead partners must be from the Northwest European program area. And the lead partner must also be a public nonprofit or a body governed by public law. There again, the co-financing, I mentioned it already, it's 60%, which means that partners need to come up with the 40% match funding, the 40%, which either comes from the organization's own treasury or from other sources. That is not something that we are specifically going to look into, but it's important to have this in mind, that there will be a contribution requested from the organizations. So often a question that we get here is what is the ideal partnership number? What I can say here is that we usually, in the past, in the previous program, the average was approximately 10 partners for a project. But there again, we don't really like to put forward some averages, because what's the most important is that you build a partnership that is coherent with the objectives that your project is aiming for. And we also want a partnership that cooperates well, that is where each partner involved has a specific role and will bring a specific contribution to reaching these objectives that the project aims for. So then there's 2 types of involvement an organization can have in a project. Either you are a full partner, among which a lead partner, or you can be an associated organization. And there's different obligations for each of them. The associated organizations are entities who do not receive ERDF and do not financially contribute to the project, but they can have an interest in its activities, its outputs, or results. I was mentioning previously the importance of having a tangible and concrete impact. And often, if you don't want to have a too wide partnership, if you don't want to end up with 15 or 20 partners that will be potentially difficult to coordinate and to manage, sometimes the solution is to bring in some associated organizations that can help support or increase the uptake, the rollout of the project results, and contribute to project long-term effects. So there, as you can see on this table, associated organizations do not have a budget. They can be reimbursed their travel and accommodation costs. They are attached actually to a project partner, and the reimbursement goes through that project partner. They don't need to have a first level control, and they do not sign the partnership agreement, unlike what all lead partners and project partners do. So just a word on the lead partner, on the different roles. The lead partner is the overall responsible for the project. He's the one who's going to submit the project, sign the contract with the program. He's also the one who's going to be coordinating, managing the whole implementation phase of the project, and will also be the main person of contact for the JS throughout project implementation. Project partners are then, they compose the partnership, they contribute to the delivery. One thing that I just want to say about project partners is that they don't need to all have the same level of involvement in the project. Some of them can be involved in the entire work plan, some others can just have a more focused or limited role in the project. And then partners from outside the NWE, I already mentioned it very briefly. It is possible. It just needs some very good and strong justification. Why is this partner needed, and why was it not possible to find such partners with the such competences in the Northwest European area. So we do ask for you to justify this in your application form, why you needed to get a partner from outside Northwest Europe. And then UK organizations, I also mentioned this already. Unfortunately, they cannot join as partners. They can be associated organizations. So that is also something interesting for you to keep in mind. So finally, what do we expect in terms of type of project? Or what does an NWE project deliver and how is it structured? So here there is something which is important, is that the program proposes 3 types of outputs that you will have to select. You don't have a total liberty on this. For a reminder, an output is the outcome of activities and deliverables. So for regular projects, it's minimum 2 outputs that have to be selected out of the 3 that you see here on the left hand of the slide. So strategies or action plans, pilot actions leading to solutions, or joint training schemes. And as I said, as implementation, uptake, and rollout is crucial in our program, each one of these outputs needs to be taken up or implemented by organizations. So that's what you see in the second column, outputs leading to results. So strategies and action plans which are taken up by organizations, pilot actions leading to solutions which are taken up or upscaled by organizations. And finally, joint training schemes here is a bit different. The result that we're expecting here is that the trainings have been completed by participants. For each one of these outputs and results, do look at our program manual and its annexes in particular, where each one of the outputs and each one of these results is described in detail, and especially you will see precisely when the results are expected to be happening within the framework of your project. For example, training completed by participants need to be completed within the framework of the project. For strategies taken up by organizations, it can happen. It just needs to start being implemented by the end of the project. But do have a look for further details at our program manual here. And then last but not least, we have one overall program result, compulsory one, which comes on top of the 2 results that you have to select in the second column. And this is the organizations with increased institutional capacity. So here you have to count all the direct beneficiaries of your projects. Usually it's most, if not all of the project partners, but it can also be organizations which are involved in pilot sites. So that means that result-wise, you will have at the minimum three results in your project. 2 of them, as you can see in the second column, and then the compulsory program result indicator. So then the intervention logic of a project. So there's, as you know, we are in a 2-step process. So in step 1, we're not going to be asking for you to detail every aspect of your project. We're really going to be looking at the strategic dimension of your project. And in particular, what is the territorial need? What is the overall need that you have identified? That is a really important element because we often see weaknesses in project application on that level. It's just answering the simple question of what is the problem you are trying to solve and where is it happening specifically in Northwest Europe, assuming that it does need to happen in Northwest Europe. You also need to explain, when you describe the need, why is the problem specific to Northwest Europe and why the project is needed to address this issue, why cooperation is needed to address this issue. So starting with a clear need, which you can then decline in a project overall objective that needs to be clear, measurable, and realistic in order to achieve the desired change in the Northwest European territories. This project overall objective should be defined in a more focused manner through project-specific objectives, which need to be achieved within the lifetime of the project through the work plan. These project-specific objectives must clearly contribute to achieving the overall project objective. So that's for step 1, need, objective, and then we're going to be expecting you to describe your results. So here the results describe, obviously, the ultimate change that the partnership aims to accomplish. What we really are going to be looking at in step 1 is a coherence between the need and objective and the results. It sounds very, very basic, but often we have applications where the challenge that has been identified in the beginning and the result, the final impact, the societal change, is not really aligned. So that is really important for you to have this intervention logic very clearly described in this step 1 application form. And then in step 2, we will be expecting you to describe your activities. So the work packages and the project outputs, you're going to have to describe the activities, the deliverables, and the final outputs, which will lead to the project results. I don't think you need to worry about this for now. In step 1, keep it simple and keep the focus on the need, the objective, and the results. And I think that can, yeah, that is already quite a substantial amount of reflection that needs to be put in there. We often say that even if the application form is short in step 1, it does necessitate quite a lot of time to be able to define properly this need, this objective, and also to bring together the necessary partnership that will be able to then roll out the project and its activities in step 2. So there, that's what I could say for the basics, and I now leave the floor to, or hand it back to Sarah.
Thanks, Alexander, for that overview of the funding in general. Thanks to everyone who's sharing their questions. Use the Q&A button in the MS Teams. So yeah, please keep doing that. We'll try and find time at the end to answer as many as possible. Our colleague Anya and Anna, they're both monitoring the chat for the questions, and Anya is going to pose those questions to Alexander and I in about 5 or 10 minutes. So look, now as the national contact point, I'm going to share my own screen, hopefully, and I'm going to take you through what we understand in Interreg Northwest Europe regarding what is a good project. So I hope you can see. Maybe is it the full screen, or it's that issue again? Can someone please just let me know if it's okay with the full screen? Maybe Alexander.
It's okay.
Oh, great. Okay. Okay. So look, I'm going to fly through this because we want to leave time for questions. Really, I'm just going to add in here, in addition to really what Alexander highlighted. So Alexander had that nice image of the need and your project idea leading to change for the citizens. And indeed, that is rooted, the justification of the need is rooted in what they call territoriality. So this is the kind of the wording. So what that means is that you have to justify very well what is the problem that you're trying to solve in Northwest Europe and in what kind of regions. So these projects require 1, 2, 3 minimum partners in 3 different countries. So if your project needs to be tackling a problem that exists in those 3 locations, it could be that there's a city of a certain size that has a lot of things in common and problems in common in Ireland. So for example, something place the size of, say, Kilkenny, they find another city of a similar size with a similar problem in northern France, in Germany, or somewhere else. So, or it could be that there are rural areas that have common problems across the 3 locations as a minimum. So this is really important to pay attention to, and you need to add a bit of detail and analysis to show that you've actually examined that you're really solving an existing problem with your project. And it's not just doing a project for the sake of doing a project. We have on this slide, you can see some data sources that you might like to use, but many of you are experts in your own field and you know best where to find the data. But at a high level, you could have a look at the EU Regional Policy Information Maps. There's a website there. And of course, Eurostat is another common source for data. The next step, again, linked to that slide that Alexander showed, going from the need and challenge to actually making a change in the society. So this is the basic logic you need to have clear at step 1. Cooperation. So this is around the partnership. So are all the necessary partners you need actually involved to solve the problem that you're tackling? Is there really a need for cooperation across the countries to tackle this issue? And are the partners really working together? So What they're really looking for here is to see, is this a project that could have just been done in Ireland alone with Irish government funding? You know, is there a need to do this across 3 different countries minimum? You know, and often there's a lot of benefits from working together across different countries. So you just need to highlight what the other countries are getting out of this project, what Ireland will get out of this project from working with other partners internationally. And then when it comes to the design of your work packages, you need to show that you're working together jointly with the 3 countries. And it's not simply one work package in France, one work package in Ireland, and one work package in Luxembourg. So you really need to show that you're jointly across all the different work packages working together. The next important point for a good project is the impact. Again, it's back to that first slide Alexander showed. What is the change that we're going to see in the society? So will the program contribute to the achievement of the program's objectives? Now, the program objectives, and I say this to many of you who have met individually over the last year, Interreg funding is quite different to some other types of funding that you might be used to, in particular research funding, where it can be a little bit blue sky. Interreg, it's really prescriptive and it comes from cohesion policy, and they know what they want to fund. So you really have to have a good look at our website for Interreg Northwest Europe and look at the Interreg program document, and in particular the fact sheets. The fact sheets, Alexander presented the priority areas earlier. They summarize those priority areas. Take a look at them and see whether your program fits with what they want to fund, because they know what they want to fund. How does your project build on existing practices? That's another very common pitfall. So we're not looking necessarily for something completely new, but they want to see that you are aware of what has been done in the field. In particular, if there's already been an EU-funded project on the theme or with the similar partners in a similar region. It's okay that the project might be similar to something that's already been done. What you need to show is simply that you're scaling up, or maybe taking it to a new type of target group or a new geographic location, or building on what has come before. So take the time to check what's been done in the field before and mention it in your project application. The target groups, Alexander touched on this as well. You have your private, your public, academic, civil society, all welcome to join as project partners. But likely you also need to consider who you need to make sure that your project is a success. So that means the wider stakeholder group. They may not be full partners in your project, but you might need to carefully consider who you need to be an associated partner, or even just consulted, in order to make sure that your project is not blocked during implementation, or importantly, if after the money stops, in that long-term rollout that is really important for Interreg Northwest Europe. You know, if you don't have the regulators, for example, on board, it could be that your project just dies as soon as the money stops, and that would not be an attractive proposal. So you need to make sure that you have the correct partners involved at some level, either full partner or associated partner, in order to deliver long-term effects. And now the more administrative side, how to get through the actual application process. So first most important point, the deadline is the 21st of March. That's for this call 4. If you're successful at step 1, which is this high-level vision, around maybe 8 to 10 pages of the overall concept, without the details of the budget, without the details of the work packages, just what is the problem you're solving, who's in the partnership, and how will it deliver change to citizens on the ground. If you pass that step 1, you will be selected to proceed to step 2, and you'll learn whether you've been chosen by sort of end of May, early June. The deadline, if you're selected to pass for the step 2, is 26th of September in 2024. That in step 2, that means you need to really provide the details on the budget, on the work packages, on the activities, and it's a lot more onerous for step 2. And then if you're successful at step 2, you'll be notified by sort of November, early December maybe, and we think that your project could start in December of this year. Submission is obligatory through the online submission system. It's called GEMS. There's a link there and also a link in the website. This is what it looks like. There's different sections of the application form. There's a pre-submission check, but it doesn't cover everything, so just be very careful and become familiar with GEMS. And I highly recommend you take a look at the Word version of the application form, which you can find on our website. Finally, look, don't underestimate the time. You need to identify what is this common challenge and the research the existing projects. You need to take time to build the correct partnership with the correct partners to ensure your project can really happen and go along. You need time for drafting, even though it's short at step 1, it needs to be well thought through because the character count is quite limited. The translation of summary is very important for any Irish lead partners. You'll need your partners in the other countries to do the abstract translation for you. You cannot submit without having your abstract in 3 different languages for this online submission. Take your time to go to the online submission system called GEMS and to write in a clear way. You can find the key reference documents, we mentioned many of them today, all available on our website. The Interreg program document outlines the key priority areas. Program manual has information on budget, details on work packages and indicators, things like that. Other guidance documents, the fact sheets, extremely useful because you need to choose carefully your priority area. That's what you'll be evaluated against. And then there's a bit more information available around intervention logic ideas. That's the slide that Alexander showed earlier with the need leading to societal change. You can also find the application form in Word version. Please join the Irish Partners mailing list. So my colleague Anna is going to put into the chat the link so that you can register to be on our mailing list. The key words when you sign up allow me to find you if there's an international consortium looking for Irish partners in a particular field with expertise in a particular field. So thanks, Anna, for adding the link to the chat. That also enables you to be added to our newsletter, which is where you'll get the follow-up to this webinar. I'll send the link to our Assembly website there. You'll be able to re-watch this recording and you'll be able to get the slides from today's event. And you can follow social media, sign up for the Interreg Northwest Europe Central newsletter as well. We also have an online community, very useful for you to browse other project ideas that you might like to join or to find partners that could join your consortium. Finally, I saw there quickly in the chat, I had a look from the Aran Islands. There was a very interesting question about how to impact on EU cohesion policy going forward and politics across Europe and upcoming elections. So yes, a very good and pertinent point. I cannot speak to the future of politics across Europe, but I think what we can say is that you have a chance now actually to have your say in the future of cohesion policy, which is currently being designed. So the Department for Public Expenditure, NDP Delivery and Reform has actually recently launched a public consultation on the future of the EU's cohesion policy. There's a QR code there on the screen that you can use. You can also go to the website, or if you just Google actually public consultation on cohesion policy, you'll get to the deeper link. The link will be here on the slides that are going to be shared as well. So please do go ahead and share your inputs to the future of cohesion policy. There's a deadline there for that of February 18th. So I think now what we can do is pass maybe over to Anya, if you don't mind, Anya, and see if there have been any questions from the chat beyond that. And I asked maybe Alexandra to put on your camera again. Thank you. And Mike, thank you.
Hi, Sarah, and hi, everybody. Yes, Sarah, there's been nearly 20 questions. So I suppose we'll work through some of them and see how we are with time, and then we could collect the questions afterwards, those that aren't answered. So I'll just work through them and let you then decide between both of you who's to answer them. So the first one is one that I actually pulled from the chat. So it's, can health services, for example, hospitals, be a partner in an Interreg application? Also, how does one go about meeting possible partners in Europe?
Yeah, so I can answer that, Alexander. I'll give you the next one. So look, yes, the short answer is yes, of course, health institutions can join Interreg Northwest Europe projects. It is open to all types of legal entity, so public, private, not-for-profit, civil society, industry. So yes, they can certainly join.
Perfect. The next one we have here, and some of these might have been covered after they asked the question, but I suppose it's just a case maybe of reiterating some of it. So the next one is, can one associated partner only be matched to one project partner, or could, for example, a German associate partner be matched to pilot actions in Ireland, Germany, and the Netherlands?
So that one's for me. Well, I mean, the answer is that an associate organizations needs to be attached to a project partner. I'm not sure I really understand how an associate organization can be attached to a pilot action, if that was part of the question. But no, an associate organization needs to be attached to a project partner, and he can only be reimbursed his participation to events or conferences by this project partner.
Perfect. Okay, if that person wants to clarify that question any further, they can do so in the chat or in the Q&A. The next question is, what TRL, so what technical readiness level, do you typically expect project outputs to achieve?
Okay, so the TRL, so technology readiness levels, this is kind of EU jargon that's used quite often for research projects in particular. So it's that going from basic investigation and research in laboratory early stage all the way to rollout in the market. So Interreg projects we do not reference really the TRL. We're all about impact for the citizen, but what that means by default is really end stage TRL. And I think if we were to put a number on it, I'd say after 7, maybe 8, 9 on the TRL scale. So really what you're wanting is rollout during the life of the project, uptake and use by the end users.
Perfect. The next one is, and I think this was covered during the presentation, but can Northern Irish organisations operating in the Republic be full partners in a project?
Alexander, I might just answer that because that's
go ahead. Go ahead.
That's a really common, as I'm the Irish national contact point. Okay, so unfortunately, due to Brexit, Northern Irish registered partners are not eligible to be full partners. In order to be eligible, you need to have a Republic of Ireland registration. That means with the company registrar's office or the charity regulator, and have an associated Irish bank account, have staff employed in the Republic of Ireland, paid into Irish bank accounts, and proofs of all of the above. So look, it's very difficult, even if they are operating in the Republic, and I understand there's cases. What they can do is they can join as associated partners, which means they can give advice and they can be paid to attend meetings simply, but no staff costs, and they wouldn't be allowed to roll out tasks.
Perfect. The next one here is just one around distinction. So does the lead partner need to be public and non-profit, or public or non-profit?
No, the lead partner can be one or the other, public or non-profit.
The next one here is, can the associate partner be a contractor?
I'll let you take that, Alexander.
Well, I think we've had this question in the past. Preferably no. The contractor, just mainly to be sure that when a tender is launched, all the respondents will have a similar level of information, and no one will have insiders information by their status of associated organization. So ideally, no.
Perfect. Sarah, you let me know how I'm going for time. I'll just keep going through them here. Is that okay?
Take a few more, yeah. Fire ahead.
Great. So the next one is, can partners apply for more than one project at a time? Maybe lead partner in one project and then partner in another project?
Yes, I can say that's no problem. You can apply to numerous projects at the same time. Yep. Just what I will say maybe is internally, you might want to be careful that you don't overextend your capacity. So in case you win, just be careful with the budget that you don't have the same person at 300%, for example.
Definitely. So our next one here is, So can you insure the project as part of the project costs? So e.g. insurance to cover the liability of the project, to cover the dropping out of a partner, etc.
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, I can. Yeah, so
I'm not.
it's a question around insurance. So they're asking, can you insure the project as part of the project cost or the project budget to cover, for example, a partner dropping out of the consortium?
I, honestly, I'm not sure what to answer here. I think the best would be to look to have a direct contact with the person. They probably have something specific in mind, and we'd probably need to discuss in further detail to know what and why they would want to ensure a project a partner potentially dropping out. But I've never heard of insuring or having an insurance for a partner potentially dropping out.
So maybe something more for a one-to-one conversation or directly.
Yes.
Perfect.
Yes.
Okay, so the next one is, could you please elaborate to the lead partner's responsibilities? In Horizon 2020 and Horizon Europe, the coordinator is not responsible for the work of other beneficiaries as per the grant agreement wording, meaning, sorry, it's a little bit of a long one, meaning each partner is assessed individually. E.g., the EC cannot go after the coordinator organization as responsible for some tasks of a consortium member. Is it different in Interreg program? I can read that again if you'd like.
No, it's
Okay.
fine. You want to answer?
No, go ahead,
Sarah?
please.
Well, I mean, the responsibilities, I don't know exactly how it's happening in Horizon Europe, but in our program, each partner has to report individually. So they're all going to report individually through GEMS. And then all of that will be brought together by the lead partner, who is responsible and who is the person talking to Interreg, potentially talking to the commission, and responsible for the whole functioning of the project. But there is certainly some aspects that can also be detailed, discussed, and fine-tuned in the partnership agreement once the project is approved. But this is after step 2, the partnership agreement, and the arrangements that might happen between and within the partnership of who is responsible of what. And yeah.
Okay,
Right.
so Anya,
Yes,
you
sorry,
might
go ahead,
ask,
Sarah.
just maybe one last question. And we'll go to the
Perfect. Let me
conclusions.
have a look here. Which was the next one there now? Sorry, in the meantime, while you were speaking, there a lot of other questions came in as well. Okay, this next came in. So, can we change budget and partner if invited into step 2? Is the question.
Yes, so that's yes, you can. So listen, it's very important at step 1 that your project makes sense, that you have the right partners, that you are covering all the eligibility requirements, and that the budget looks reasonable. That's how you will pass to step 2. So do your best to have it all in place as early as possible. But indeed, in case it is needed, it is possible. We're quite flexible in that sense. We understand that step 1 is the concept note almost, and that step 2, when you get down to the nitty-gritty, you might need to adjust your budget. You might need to add or even change partners. So that's no problem. So look, I think that's the last question, Anya. Thank you so much.
No problem.
What I'll say is I will endeavour. I have all those questions. I think I can get access to them after this, isn't it? Yeah. So
Yeah.
I'll endeavour to reply by email to those of you that we couldn't answer here live. And listen, I'm just going to say thank you and maybe pass over to Alexander for a few closing remarks, please. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks again. Well, just a few words of conclusions, and I won't be very long. I wanted to point out just 3 things. The first one is that we obviously, when we present Interreg Northwest Europe, we have the tendency to present in detail the conditions, because I mean that's we allocate funding, of course, but at a certain number of conditions. So it might sound sometimes a bit difficult, a bit complicated, but I do want to put forward right now in this conclusion what incredible and unique opportunity it is for organizations in Northwest Europe to apply for Interreg Northwest Europe. An opportunity, of course, to get funding, but also an opportunity to extend your professional networks across Northwest Europe and beyond in Europe. An opportunity to to exchange knowledge, practices, experiences, to gain EU visibility for your organization and its achievements. Also, depending on your project, it can be an opportunity to get a critical mass to invest in infrastructure and to create long-lasting and meaningful impact in your area of activity. And then last but not least, it's also an opportunity more broadly to contribute to EU cohesion, to reducing disparities, as we mentioned a few times, at European level, but also within Ireland and for the benefit of your regional economy. The second point I wanted to make, and assuming that you are very convinced about applying for funding, is just to keep it really simple, and especially in step one. I'm noticing here, even in the questions that we're answering, that people are already jumping into the nitty-gritty of the budget details and the arrangement within the partnership, et cetera. You will have plenty of time to get into this in step two. So I would say for now, and for step one, to maximize your chance of success, focus on what is really important. The three words that were mentioned by Sarah: territoriality, cooperation, and impact. Territoriality, what challenge have you identified? Why is Northwest Europe particularly concerned by the challenge you identified? And where is this, the problem that you identified, where is it happening specifically? That is very important, to be clear about the territories that you're targeting and why your project and the challenge you identified is relevant for Northwest Europe. And then second of all, cooperation. Why is cooperation needed to tackle it? Very simple question, but often not well explained in application form in step one. Do explain in detail why you are bringing together these partners, how they will be working together to reach the objective that you're setting out for. And then finally, impact. What will your project change in Northwest Europe? Will it change anything? How does it improve the current situation? Which means that you also have in your application form to describe that current situation. And then finally, who will benefit from this change? Who are the final beneficiaries, the end users, the citizens, the territories that will benefit? It is important. We want projects to have tangible and concrete impacts, and it's very important that you show this in your application form. And then last, very short third message is that whether you're a project partner, a lead partner, if you have an idea, the first thing that you should do is get in contact with Sarah, the contact point for Ireland. She will help you out, not only just to give out information, but also to take you through the application process and answer any question you might have on the application form and on your project idea. So there, I'd like to thank, well, Sarah to start with for organizing this session, David for his participation, but I think he has left, and also the organizing team in Southern Regional Assembly, particular Anna Higgins and Agnes Whelan, who helped us with the questions. So thank you to all of you and to all the participants, of course, and good luck in your application.
Thanks to you. Okay. So we'll sign off there, and remember, if you sign up to the newsletter, link is in the chat, you'll receive the copy of the slides and the recording. So thank you, everybody, and good luck.